All right, everybody, we are back. Art Morrison the third here with my boys Rob McPherson and Kevin Tarca with another episode of Hoop Chatter, the podcast. We are extremely excited because this is episode 30. We have a topic today that is it's very important to all of us actually, and it must be spoken on. Today's date is June. Oh, it's only the first. What's the second? June 1st, 2020. Yep. Probably a date you're going to be hearing for the rest of our lives regarding the last couple of days between, May 31st and June 1st. If you guys aren't aware, there have been a series of protesting, and if it even needs to be mentioned, rioting, looting, and just the country is in an uproar in regards to, you guessed it, Black lives and the value of what it means to be Black or African American in this country, as well as the many, many police brutality episodes we've experienced in our recent years, dating all the way back to, man, if you want to go 30 years ago, Rodney King, right? You want to go back to Sean Bell. It's the same story over and over. And so anyway, we're going on day 3 or 4 of protesting in regards to the mistreatment and oppression of Black people in America. Many major athletes like Steve Nash, LeBron James, Steven Jackson, Steph Curry, and so many others, who I'm sure we'll mention later on the episode, have spoken out via social media or whatever platform they can in regarding this and just demanding change and reform, not only in our justice system, but in our system as a whole, in our country as a whole. And it's a topic that people don't like speaking on often. We are fortunate here and on this podcast, and even in our sphere of influence and network, all as college basketball players in general, who've been able to experience parts of the country, parts of the world, all of us here, through the sport that we play, and become friends. Even if you're looking at this podcast, you see different people of color on this podcast. So we're fortunate, but everyone's not that fortunate to be able to experience the world and have the outlook on life that we have. And it's extremely sad because you see it pouring out during times like this where there's a divide in the country. But it's a necessary evil to bring attention to what is happening year-round, constantly, for literally the history of America, behind the scenes. And now we're experiencing camera phones and smartphones distributing this disturbing content and just awful elephant in America's room, now being exposed to us on a daily. Literally in the last month, we have 3 Black people being murdered at the hands of white people in scenarios that you could not close your eyes and imagine the roles being reversed, which is when it really brought me to tears and hurt me and made my heart beat fast when Ahmaud Arbery, who was someone jogging in a neighborhood that was not his, was gunned down by people in the neighborhood just because he was a stranger and was not the same color as them. I tried hard to imagine a white person jogging through a Black neighborhood and being stopped and just killed, like for no real reason, right? So, and I can't start this podcast off without mentioning George Floyd, who, don't get me wrong, died a terrible death being choked at the knee of a police officer who was supposed to be here to protect and serve, to die at the hands of a police officer that way, having a knee to your neck for over 8 minutes. Not only was he another Black life lost, but most importantly, and why these protests are some of the largest we ever seen, and this uprising and uproar is one of the largest we ever seen, is because George Floyd happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Not to take away from the level of his death, it was very important, but it is bigger than him. He's at the top or the bottom, whatever way you look at it, of a long, never-ending list of Black lives lost due to just racism, blatant racism in America, and people who aren't, I pray for these people, so that's why I speak this way. People who aren't fortunate as us to see the light in everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. So with all that being said, Tarca, Rob, thank you guys for joining me once again for episode 30, which actually, guys, is going to be the last episode of season 1 of Hoop Chatter. I wish it was a different episode so we could really celebrate and pop bottles, but I thought that this was a great episode to go out with, to leave you all with these thoughts and leave you all with a different perspective than just us arguing Kobe versus LeBron, and let you guys really get to see a more intimate side of all of us here from different backgrounds, different color, different race, and all that good stuff. So with that being said, hope I didn't kill the vibe. Tarca, Rob, how are you guys doing today, bro?
I'm enraged. I'm hurt. I'm honestly tired of the same song and dance that keeps happening. 8 years ago, Trayvon Martin was killed. There's been riots. There's been talk of change. There's been talk of healing, of everyone coming together. And in the last 8 years, there's been someone of color killed like this by the hands of police every year. Like you said, Rodney King was, 30 years ago?
And they rioted just off of him being beat on camera, let alone dying.
Beat on camera. And the Watts riots, right? Like the same things have been happening since then. Us, I'm about to turn 30. We're all around the same age range. The amount of hashtags I've seen in my lifetime for people being killed unjustly at the hands of police is sickening.
Numbing, sadly.
It's to the point, as an African American man, as a person of color, so many things happen on a daily basis that if we were to acknowledge every single thing that happens, we would literally never be happy, because you would get consumed by that anger. You would get consumed by that feeling of being hated just by looking different. It's hard, man. It's tough. My thoughts and prayers are with George Floyd's family. My thoughts and prayers with all of those families, man. And it's just to the point where it's like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
When is enough enough?
That's my like, if there's a phrase that you buy into during things like this, personally, like the one that touches me the most is like, enough is enough. You know what I mean? It's like, and we'll get into the rioting and looting and some of that's going on, because there's conspiracy theories regarding it. Then there's also justifications around it, because this is bigger than like police killing Black people. It's actually bigger. It's a bigger conversation of Black people never receiving reparations or restoration or restitution, right, for what we've been through, right? So that's a whole different story. But Tarca, I want to give you the floor. And I have some questions for you, because you're not Black, if anybody didn't know this, or people who are listening who right, who aren't watching. But bro, just kind of, just like Rob and I did, break down how you feel and where you are with it, and just how all this makes you feel from your perspective, being outside of the Black race.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to really put into the right words, because I'm in no position to speak from experience, and no white person really is. Because the fact of the matter is very clear that as a white person and as a white male, I have a head start in life in so many categories. And I have perks and benefits that people of color don't. And essentially I have a free pass on so many different things. By default, 0 questions asked. So for someone like myself to, you know, try to say the right thing. I mean, I don't think you can say anything. And that's the point of it, is people have been saying things, but action is actually what is the thing that's needed. Right. And, you know, I posted this thing the other day to try and put into words my feelings, but I've since then, you know, I've really just been trying to listen. I mean, that's, I think, the best thing that we can do, because again, I just, you know, it's if you're not disgusted and enraged and disappointed and sad and pissed off and, you know, all of these emotions, then you know, I think there's a very obvious issue. So there's only so much I think that I can try and put into words besides just showing support, trying to listen and trying to be open-minded, whatever way possible, to help change something through action. And that's kind of where I'm at today, at least.
Self-awareness and emotional intelligence are the 2 words that come to mind in regard to white people. For those of you who don't know, like my girlfriend is white.
So is mine.
Rob's fiance is also white. Obviously, there's other motives there. There's companionship and love and all that stuff in a relationship. But I'm just, those 2 come to mind. And then yourself, Tarca. My question I had this queued up for days. I want to ask all my white friends. It's like, what separates you, or what is it that makes you aware enough to understand, yo, we all know whether we're a white supremacist, whether we're black, or whether we're a white neutral person, or whether we're white and we stand with black people in support of them, right? We're all aware racism exists. What is it that draws the lines where some people are like, we know it exists? Like, I almost admire white supremacists, bro, because it's like, we know it exists and it should. That makes sense to me. There's this weird line, especially on social media, and I know we all have experienced it, of people who either A, try to pretend it doesn't exist, or B, try to dismiss the fact that George Floyd was black and killed in a way that no white man has probably ever been killed in America, ever, right? And that black people's reaction is justifiable by any means because of the long range of outrage. Like, what is it, bro, that puts you in that position to see it and other people can't?
I mean, I just think it's the way that I was raised. I mean, honestly, I think it's just education, just understanding, because, you know, one of the things that keeps coming up is, you know, you're not born being a racist, right? And you have to learn it somehow by the people around you that embed these racist thoughts, or you know, because there's no question that there's a spectrum of people that, you know, kind of like you just described. There's like, whoa, like this dude is, you know, mentally ill enough to think that white supremacy should be the right thing. And then there's all the way to the other side that it's like, you know, people are so self-aware that they actually understand, like, and again, this is the correct side, you know, that like they understand what they need to do, that everyone is literally equal, should be equal, obviously not treated equal. And then there's everything in between. And I think that there are some people in between that just choose to look the other way.
Yep.
I think that there are, and this is not to give anybody an excuse by any means, but right. I do think there are some people that are scared to say anything because they don't know what to say. They're not educated enough to say something. They're afraid that they're going to hurt someone's feelings if they say something the wrong way. They do, you know, I think, you know, I'm a believer that silence is definitely siding with, you know, the wrong side. But I also understand that, like, there are people that don't have an Instagram, or just because someone doesn't put up a post saying why they agree doesn't mean that
Right.
they're a racist. Like, I hope those same people are taking action and not just sitting there doing nothing. But, I think there's just so many places in that spectrum that it comes down to education, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's just, Rob, you were going to add something to that question, to that before I said that, but I just think it's at least I'm lucky enough to be raised by people that are I don't know, human beings. I can see everyone to be a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of it comes down to, I think people, they know it goes on, but because it doesn't directly affect them,
100%.
they don't feel enough. They don't feel compelled enough to have an opinion. Meaning they don't feel compelled enough to get educated on it, because it's something they would never think about that would affect them, right? They know it's wrong, but then they're just probably like, well, what can I do? Or it doesn't affect anyone in my immediate family or my immediate circle.
See,
so
I'm not
just
disagreeing with you guys. That person that we're talking about, like, I don't have an opinion about those people. I think education's the key. Like, tomorrow marks 99 years since the last bombs were dropped on American soil, and that was when, the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacist groups literally bombed Tulsa, Oklahoma, the most Black community in the history of America, with its own bus lines, banks, and all that, right? Some people don't even know that story because it's not taught in schools. Some people don't even know that when a group is oppressed the way Black people are, the natural thing to do is a reparation. The first thing that every country does, including America, is repair an oppressed community financially. And when that's not the case, they do it with land, right?
Bro,
and
look at the Indians. Look at the
right.
Indians.
Yep.
Look at the Jews.
Yep.
Look at the Japanese.
Black people, the civil rights movement, a lot of people, they don't teach this, right? A lot of people don't even understand that the civil rights movement was posed as a good thing to keep America from having to cut that reparations check or divvy up their land, which is why they, what's the opposite of segregation? Integration, thank you. So a lot of people don't even understand that concept. They don't even understand the concept of, hey, Black people are a race. We're not an ethnic group or a nationality. Therefore, because of that, because they kept us only a race, we can't be awarded land or be recognized in the UN as a nationality. So there is no country that can fight for us. The country that's supposed to fight for us is the country oppressing us, and it keeps us in this like cycle, right? So anyway, I went off on a tangent, but my point is, those people that you guys are talking about, if they knew all of these facts and were educated, I think they would be fine. The people I'm talking about are the ones who see a Black man get killed by a white police officer, don't say anything, don't take the time to tweet or Facebook or whatever, which is also fine. Now they're in that okay category. But then when Kaepernick kneels, or Black people loot or riot, or a cop gets shot back at, right? Or someone goes on TV crying because their business window got bashed in, they'll share that to their story or tweet on Facebook that, and they ignored the first. And that person, I think, is the scariest person in America because they are racist and they don't know it, or they're undercover racist. And I used to say, like, oh, like, those people aren't educated either. That was me 6 months ago. But as I educated myself, I had to take a stern approach and say, no, that person is racist. They don't like me. You know what I mean?
Bro.
If I slap you in the face, Tarca,
I think
you say, hey, you slapped me, and you slap me back, and everyone goes, oh my God, Tarca slapped Art. Like, that person straight up didn't like Tarca.
Right.
You know
Right. Yo, I saw a crazy analogy for it, man. They were like, it's almost like in school when you see a kid getting bullied.
Yeah, I saw this stuff.
And they get bullied, and then they snap.
Lil
And
Nas
then
X.
that kid comes in and shoots up the school. And then everyone's up in arms about, oh, the kid shot up the school. Oh my God, da da da. But it's like everyone saw and knew this kid was getting picked on and did nothing about it. But now when they stand up for themselves and they snap, now it's a problem.
Yep.
Everyone sees and knows what goes on in terms of our judicial system, in terms of systematic racism that's happening towards Black and brown bodies. And no one wants to comment on it. No one wants to fix it. But as soon as those Black and brown bodies get fed up with what goes on, and then there's an attack on police, or there's looting and rioting, where it's not even all Black people looting and rioting. Now there's this compelled feeling of, oh, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. You know, like, how can people who have never been oppressed, like, think about this. Slavery was over 300 years, right? You go from slavery, then you go to segregation,
Jim
right?
Crow.
Jim Crow, 13th Amendment. You go from that then to what? Black people being able to vote and integration. But all throughout that time, even after slavery, there was never reparations. There was never an equal playing field.
Not to mention the Constitution as 3/5 of human.
A human. We had no rights. Could not vote until 1964, right. 1965.
Yeah,
My father passed away at 61. He was 8 or 9 years old when Black people were allowed to vote. He went to high school. In his high school, he graduated in 1974. His freshman year, his high school just integrated in Georgia in 1970.
That's crazy.
He's old enough to remember that, right? He was old enough to remember that. I'm his son. I'm not a generation removed.
You're one generation away from not being able to drink in certain fountains.
Exactly. And I'm engaged to a white woman, right? Like, so think about this. Like, in this 2020,
there's definitely hostility here. Yep. It's
2020, and these same killings, the same things have been happening the entire time. But now, when people are fed up, now it's an issue in how you handle it. Who is to tell the people that have been mistreated, devalued this entire time, how they should feel, how they should stand up for themselves?
For 400, 500 years, right?
Like, it's like, no matter what we do, it's a problem. Kaepernick kneels. He tried to tell people 4 years ago about this. Think about that. He knelt during the national anthem about this very same issue 4 years ago. And it was shifted and turned into, you shouldn't be kneeling on anthem. It's the military. It's the military. It's disrespecting the flag. How many sound bites are there of him saying it's not to do with the military? I love the military. I love the flag. It is about police brutality, systematic racism. And we are still talking about the same issue today.
It is sad, man. Then for him to get blackballed about the biggest sports league in the country. Tarca, I see you nodding your head like your head's about to fall off your neck every time we mention Kaepernick, because I could just kind of sense that you have a comment there. You know, what are your thoughts on just that whole thing, even the way that situation was handled, his protest, you know, like because you're in the sports world heavy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just literally agreeing with everything, because it's just common sense. Like, and the reason why I was kind of nodding my head was like, that is why white people need to shut up and listen. Like, that's like what I was doing. It's like, who the hell am I to say even my opinion when it's an opinion and I've never experienced it? Like, you know, and this was what the original, like, kind of feeling and post was. I don't know if either of you read it fully, but it was just like,
yep, I did.
Who the hell am I? Like, I literally would get angry and frustrated when getting pulled over, and it's just like, it makes me want to vomit of why versus why people of color get angry and frustrated. Like, I'm not angry, frustrated, or worried because I'm going to die. And
right.
And that's sick.
You know what I mean? Like,
and that's sickening.
Yeah.
And that's sickening. But again, I think that's what, like, it's not, and it's funny because, you know, a couple of my boys and obviously being, you know, in the sports world and, you know, being on a team as one of the, you know, one or two of the only white guys on a team, it's like a lot of my best friends are Black. And, you know, a couple of my boys texted me like, yo, like, appreciate the post, great post, which is great. And obviously amazing, like, that people see it. But my response was almost like, no, like, what that's the problem there. Like, why the hell does somebody have to thank me for saying that?
Yeah.
Like, why does
Yeah.
Why does someone have to thank me for something that should be absolutely default of, yeah, we're two humans.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for like, there
Yep.
should not be I mean, again, appreciated, glad that people understand that I'm trying to be, you know, understanding of the situation. It's good to know that.
Yeah.
But like, it was just, it made me think that's disgusting that people have to say thank you for me to say what I said.
Yep.
Well, you know what's sad, bro? The oppression runs so deep, and I'm even gonna put myself under the fire here a little bit. Like, it runs so deep that, because I don't want to make myself look too bad here, but I want to be candid. When I saw white people joining in the protest, and even to be honest with you, joining in the looting and rioting, I was
Mm-hmm.
relieved because, sadly, in my head, because my skin, in my blood, like, we're so oppressed to even think this way. It was like, if white people are doing it, it's okay.
Right.
Like, all right, this time the white people are with us, so like we're safe. And you even see it on the ground, white people standing in front of black people because they know this cop's definitely not gonna kill me. There
Yep.
were, at the protest, one of my someone I follow on Instagram, major activist, my son, is actually a rapper as well, but he's big in the community. He was live, so it was live. It wasn't like an edited video, nothing. And you hear the people on the front lines of the protest screaming, "Kill me, you mother effer! Suck my, kill me right now! I'm ready to die today!" And he's literally on live saying, "Yo, these white people crazy," because it was white people, protesting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying all that to say is, like, it's really disgusting that it is embedded even in us, the good people, you, Tarca, right, myself, the people who texted you, that mentality of like, it's been drilled in us for hundreds of years, which people don't give enough credit. Hundreds of years that like if it's white, it's okay. Like, you talk white, like that's better. Like, you dress white, okay, you dress clean cut. Like, our culture has been rinsed,
Mm-hmm.
our oppression has been rinsed. So like, it's not really a thing. And if you cry out too much, like, you're just another black guy screaming racism. It's actually reverse racism, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of a sad thing. I'm throwing myself under the bus a little bit there, but that was like literally my initial thought. And I'm gonna even pivot that a little bit about the looting and rioting. There was reports that there were white people looting and rioting, but there were actually parts, and this could be a conspiracy theory, but nothing is unbelievable because, again, Rob just said 40, 50 years ago, we couldn't drink from the same fountain, me and you, Tarka. So like, that sounds crazy now. So anyway, the report was that they were part of white supremacist groups, and they were just trying to increase the violence of the protests in order to defame the Black Lives Matter movement and just what everyone is protesting for, and to take the camera off of peaceful protests and get the camera off of violent protests, and forget about the fact that George Floyd was murdered, and forget about the fact that
Oh,
mad black people were murdered and all that.
100%, bro. I heard that too. And I mean, and it also look at where people get their news from, right? Like, there was a report that came out that Baltimore had one of the most peaceful protests in the country. And that's not a report that's going to get a lot of traction because it's not clickbait. It's not going to be division. It's not going to stir a ruckus. If you turn on Fox News is going to show all black people looting and rioting, and only black people at those riots and
Did you
at
see
those
the crazy
protests.
clip of the white girl looting, running out, and the reporter says out of her mouth, I gotta share this clip, out of her mouth, up, and we're watching live now, it looks like someone, maybe an employee or something, cleaning up or gathering some things, leaving the storefront. And it was like clearly a girl looting, but she was white.
Yep.
And it was like,
I
yo,
saw that clip.
what?
Yep.
But that
that clip.
person, the reporter, and maybe I'm throwing him a bone again because it's like embedded in me, but even that person, it's embedded in them. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's so embedded in us as a culture that
Yep.
white is bad and white is good and clean and pure.
It is.
Yeah.
It is on that point, and I think it's something that is so easy to think taken out of context. So if you show someone a video, I don't care if it's on news or on whatever on your phone, of anyone looting and damaging a store, and obviously in this situation, a black person looting and damaging a store, no context, it's easy for someone to say, oh my gosh, that person better get arrested. That's wrong. Well, hey, idiot, take a step back and understand the context. It's so embedded that people don't understand the context. So
Right.
now the question goes to, so whoa. That's wrong. But what about the dude that was just murdered on live TV? Let alone the last 400 years of everything, obviously.
Right.
What about the dude that was just murdered on live TV? So that's not wrong. Like at the time of them starting to show the looting, like that first day, that dude was still not arrested yet. So you're saying, hold up, you're pissed about that, and this dude that just murdered someone on live TV, like that's just okay?
Or murder somebody on video, still walking the street.
So again, it's like, and maybe it's embedded in some people, and maybe not everyone that kind of thinks that, first of all, is a bad person or completely racist. I think there are a lot of people are, but maybe not everyone, because they're like, whoa, okay, hold on.
The parents
that's
definitely
just
are.
the reason that person is doing that is a byproduct of nothing else working, because they tried to get the attention because the dude was murdered or lynched on camera and no one did shit about it, is the point of that. And it's like, who the hell are we to say how people respond? We can never feel exactly the way that someone has felt when that are actually oppressed. Like, I can't say that I was walking down the street and a little old white grandma crossed to the other side of the street because I'm walking at her because I'm white. I can't say that I've experienced that.
Right.
It's and so that's why
there's that.
Other white people need to shut up and listen.
And then there's the other 2 points of like, first of all, if there wasn't rioting and looting, would he have been arrested if people didn't start bugging out? Right? There's that point. But then, honestly, talking the opposite of what you're saying of like, I can't relate because I've never been in that situation. Who are we to say? But we've all felt anger. We've all felt pissed, right? So forget about that. You can't relate. You can freaking relate. When Kaepernick kneeled and Nike backed it and you burned your freaking Air Monarchs, you know what I mean? Or you burned your Kaepernick jersey, or when LeBron left Cleveland and you burned it, or people rioted, or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? It's like, you felt emotion. So why all of a sudden are you acting emotionless when it comes to a black life? Because that black life didn't move the same emotion as LeBron leaving your team. And that's the part where, again, I'm throwing people bones here. I'm giving people benefit of the doubt because it's freaking embedded in me. I'm like freaking self-hating black man, whatever. But it's your parents, your grandparents. You can't even help it because they raised you to look at life in that way, which I think is where the education piece comes in. Or maybe I'm wrong. That person just flat out racist too. And, we shouldn't be throwing them a bone here, and they all need to, I don't know, get coronavirus or whatever. I don't know the solution, but like, it's definitely out of control, bro. It's blatant in the media. Don't even get me started on the president. He's tweeting so much, I'm actually confused. I don't know if he's on our side or not on our side. The obvious answer is he ain't on our side.
No, bro.
And just, I've never seen a country in this kind of turmoil. And then you add in the coronavirus and social distancing that all of a sudden disappeared and isn't a thing anymore.
But the sad thing is, bro, like what will we expect from a country that's built on the backs? From a country that's built on stolen land, on the backs of the people from that land, and on the backs of stolen people, and yet they do not give a fair ground to those people after all these years. So what do you really expect?
That's the deep conversation I'm trying to get everybody to have. It's not like, they killed George Floyd. They killed X amount of people.
It's deeper than that.
It's deeper than that, man. Like Rob just said, he put it so beautifully. Well, what do we expect? Let's really list America's transgressions right now. Like this isn't a new thing. Like, we used to be sold like pigs and livestock, right? Like me, 6'7", in shape, I would have had a price on me.
You was a first round pick, bro.
First round pick, bro.
First round.
You know what I mean? $70 going to the highest bidder, which is crazy to think. And that, was not that much long ago. Like, so when you put all that in perspective, I think there needs to be intentional education of people in that space so that they can more carefully choose a side, even though it's a very obvious side. See, even speaking like that, this is why people get boiled up and they turn it into a race thing. Because like I'm
Yeah.
sitting here trying to make excuses for white people, and as I'm talking, I'm like, yo, screw them, bro. How did they not see that? You know what I mean? Like,
And Tarka, yo, I don't want this to look like or seem like we're coming down or bashing you or white people, because that's not the intent. That's not the intent of
Amen.
this. It's just voicing opinion and honestly just anger and just fed up of 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 just having to always have like, yo, like being a black man in America, bro, you have to have a mask, right? Like I can't let myself be vulnerable outside of my own house. When I step outside of my house, I have to put my mask on. I have to always know what circles I'm in. I have to always know where I'm at. I have to always know, what I'm doing, what reason I am somewhere. When I drive in the car, subconsciously now, I place my wallet and phone on my dashboard at the front. So if any reason I get stopped, everything's in sight of what I have to reach for. Nothing's ever going to be, I have to go in a compartment. Nothing. Everything's always in sight. You know what I mean? Like, there's just subconscious things I think about constantly that I have to do to get through life, just in case if anything was to happen, I have a reason why I'm there. I have an alibi. I'm situated. But I don't say that to take away from non-people of color like you, right? That realize these things are wrong, realize that there's a broken system, realize that there's things that need to be changed, and you don't have all the answers, but you're willing to be locked in arms with us to find those answers and fix this, right?
yeah, which we definitely appreciate.
So I don't want listeners, or you to feel like this is an anti-white conversation or no, this is an anti-racism conversation.
Amen.
Now, when we're talking anti-racism, both of you guys, I would love to hear your answer. I know we talk about, like, because we're going deep, Rob. We like systemic racism in America, the system, the justice system. But there is a micro level of like, cops are pieces of shit. And I say that I have family who's cops. If you guys are listening, you're a piece of shit. And I have people who are clients of all my businesses or cops. And if you're listening, you're a piece of shit. If you're not speaking up, or you can continue to protect your, and I'm doing air quotes here, brothers in the force, bro.
I mean, I'm sick of that. Not every cop's a bad cop. All that, bro. In the profession of being a cop, you do not have the room to be a bad cop. Every cop has to be a good cop.
Right.
And if you know there is a bad cop, you need to exploit them and kick them out of your brotherhood now, because you don't have room for bad cops. Because when you have bad cops, this is what happens, and this is what continues to happen.
There's a girl.
So that excuse is ridiculous.
Crazy.
I don't want to hear that anymore.
There's
no room for it, bro.
There's a girl that me and Rob went to school with. She's a police officer, and she posted on Facebook the cop flag with the blue line through it, and
defend that effing line. I saw that.
Yeah, right. So the caption was defend the effing line, right? And I felt mad for a second, but again, I'm always throwing bones, always benefited the doubt in these white people. I go on her page and I say, let me go look and see what else she posted, because this might be, just she's posting. She's a cop. She does have to protect her profession, right? There's art again. I go back and there's not one post about George Floyd dying. There's not one post about Black people being mistreated in America. None of that.
She's an open Trump supporter as well. Not to get political, but the president did say the MAGA group does like Black people, making it seem Black people and MAGA are separate. He said this. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
He said MAGA likes African Americans. MAGA likes Black people. So who's in MAGA?
Wow.
Are Black people not a part of that? Can Black people not be a part of that movement? I'm not saying this. He said that. That's all I'm saying.
That's a great point. Well, I didn't even think about that. But I was saying, Tarca, like, when I see that, it's like you got boiled enough to put a post when you saw cops being talked bad about. She even later went to post a long post about, like, it's funny how everyone was thanking essential workers 2 weeks ago. Now they all hate us, kind of thing.
No one was thinking cops. I was thinking nurses and doctors, the ones that were taking care of COVID patients. I was thinking my fiance.
Chipotle workers, you know what I mean?
Bro. Like, what am I thinking of cops
Whole
for?
Foods cashiers.
Nobody's outside doing anything. No one's stealing nothing. No one's committing crimes. Everyone's in the house. And I'm thinking the ones that are laying their life on the line versus this virus that will kill you. That's what I'm thinking.
Like, so Rob's wine is kicking in, everybody.
You feel me? Like, I'm not thinking about a police officer when we're dying from breathing on each other.
But I want to finish my question to Tarca, though, bro. You know, as a white person, because obviously it's very clear how Rob and I feel about police officers in this instance, right? There's no room for bad cops. I love that a lot. Tarca, how do you feel it fits in on a micro level? Like, because you're white, but I'm sure you have friends who are police officers. Like, we literally all do. And, like, I love them as friends. But, like, does things like this happen and you look at cops in general and you're like, yo, bro, like, how are you defending other cops or saying, like, you don't need to burn your city down? Like, where do you stand on all that without making yourself look bad?
I mean, I think there's really one stance. It's just, I don't know if I don't know how I could potentially defend the other stance. Like, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of being a cop and saying, like, all right, I have to defend my brotherhood, but should I tell people that I'm a racist or not? Like, I don't, you know, like, how could you defend that side? I mean, I understand the brotherhood thing, but, and I understand even, matter of fact, I understand defending it. But like you just said, you can defend your profession, you can defend your political views, you can defend whatever you want to, but if you don't acknowledge the fact that there is a problem, or if you don't acknowledge the fact that, like, hey, I'm going to defend my guys because there are a bunch of good people in this profession, but someone just got murdered on live TV by one of our kind, so let's do something about it. If you don't acknowledge that, then there's no way you could take that defensive stance.
I would love to see all my cop friends simply post like, that piece of crap, I can't believe that video. Oh my God, this is not what a cop is supposed to be about. Like, and helping organize protests and all that. That would make it, bro, like, all right.
I'll have that in like 3 minutes, bro. Because one of my best friends is an ATF federal agent. And he actually subscribes to your brother's e-learnings on real estate.
Wow, that's dope.
And he looks up to your brother in all facets of life. And I know from conversations with him, he doesn't take that work home with him, meaning he looks at that as a job, right? Like,
is he black or white?
He's black. He wanted to get into, he's actually in law school and about to get his law degree, and he's an ATF agent. Got it. Right? Like, he looked at getting into the police force and affecting change in a positive way as a stepping stone to bigger and higher things. Clearly, from what he's doing, from education, having his own LLC with his cousin, getting into real estate. He's doing a lot of things. Shout out to him, by the way. I'm gonna keep him anonymous just because of his profession, but you know, I could hit him up right now, and I know what he would say about all of this.
So, all right, so that's perfect because he's a black cop, and a lot of the videos we've been seeing of these cops spraying crowds, you know, punching black women in the face. A lot of them are black cops, and this is kind of my issue with like that brotherhood of like not knowing right from wrong. Obviously comes from the system. We'll blame the system, but how much do we blame the micro level of humanity and what we're like teaching our freaking people?
I think that comes into it a lot with black and white, just with how white or non-black cops can view black bodies, right? Or how black people feel they may have to do extra against their own people to get ahead in their profession, to show they're really down with the thin blue line, right? Preach, like all those things go into it, bro. Because there's times on videos where you can see it could be a black and white cop, but the black cop is doing things way worse to the suspect than a white cop, just to show to his partner, like, hey, you see, I'm doing this, I'm really with y'all. Yeah. You know? Yeah, but I mean, so I have white friends that are cops, and I've talked to them about this because they're people that are friends with my fiance that I know I'm gonna be intertwined with for life, most likely. So I don't hold back, and I ask the tough questions because I need to know where people stand. If you're gonna be around me, I need to know. You know what I mean? And the first thing he tells me is there's not enough training.
Everybody says that. It's like 8 weeks.
No. He's like, I'm not excusing anything, but he was like, no, really, there's not enough training. He was like, when we go and have to shoot on targets, we never have to shoot in a high stress situation where our heart rate's elevated, where it's a life or death situation. It's always, oh, we got to come in and shoot today. Man, we could go do the shooting practice on a range, indoor, outdoor. Pop, 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 tuck and roll, move, pop, 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 step over something, move, pop, pop. That's it. They're not in a situation where it may be you're breaking into a home, you know, where you may feel like there's 15 people in there armed and it's 6 of you, right? Or it may be you're in a tough neighborhood and you're pulling somebody over and you don't know what they may have on, right? It's never a high stress situation where you pulling out your weapon and shooting someone is a split decision like that. It's not simulated that way. I don't know how it's not. I don't know if they've changed things since I've had that conversation with him. But from looking at what's been happening,
in less time it took us to have a degree, to get a degree. You know what I mean? Like, you just become a cop, and it's like everything you said. The stress situations is only one part of it. I'm talking about not only psych evals, but emotional evals. And I'm not talking about during your training. I'm talking about daily. When you clock in the morning as a cop, all right, bro, like, we're going to give you this series of questions to see, like, how everything is going. Like, did you just argue with your wife? Did a black person just cut you off at the light and you've been a little edgy toward black people? You know what I mean? Like, did somebody bash your window, the window out your car this weekend and you're just tight? Because if so, we need to send your butt home. Because I can have an emotional meltdown on the basketball court or behind my laptop and nobody dies from it. Right? These people have lives in their hand and they're, you know, literally paid tax dollars to protect and serve, which is a whole nother thing. Forget them killing us. They're supposed to be protecting and serving us. You know what I mean? It's not like they're supposed to be killing people and they're only killing us. They're not supposed to be killing nobody.
Anybody. Bro, at the end of the day, yo, this is my whole thing. How do you get from someone writing a bad check, potentially, in a store, to him being killed, but you have mass murderers like the Dylan Roofs of the world, like the guy that shot up the movie theater in Denver with his hair dye, like the Columbine shooter, or like these other mass murderers who typically are white males that are committing these crimes, right? That get taken away into custody and get a trial. I'm not saying that every black person that was killed by the cops is innocent, but all I'm saying is, damn it, give them the chance to at least have a hearing.
Yo, while the guy was dying, George Floyd, while he's dying, the cop that was standing guard of the cop doing the choking continuously makes the comment, "Don't do drugs, kids. This is what happens when you do drugs. Don't do drugs, kids." So don't even get me started on, you know, the drug abuse and how addiction is treated differently in both communities. You know what I'm saying? Then we talk about socioeconomics. Yo, it gets so deep that I just think if the world just understood.
Now let's talk about it. Why are drugs treated differently? Let's talk about the war on drugs between crack and
mass
cocaine.
Incarceration. Yep.
Let's talk about that, where you could have 10 pounds of cocaine, which is a designer at the time white drug, quotes white drug, but you could have 10 ounces of crack.
And serve up to life in prison.
And you would serve a longer sentence for the 10 ounces than the 10
mandatory
pounds.
Sentencing, 25 years.
How do you think that destroys? Crack was flooded in the black community. Flooded in the black community. And you got mandatory sentences 2 times the sentence?
Well, no, it's a 2-time destroyer, right? So you're destroying the family from the actual drug and what the drug does. Literally,
but then taking the male out the home.
And then, and then you're incarcerating the people that are distributing it when everybody knows black people don't make crack or cocaine or import it. We don't own boats, right?
No. So how are black people getting cocaine? Black people aren't flying over to Colombia to get the cocaine. They don't have the connections to get the cocaine, but it's distributed in their neighborhoods, right? And it's broken down into a form of crack, right? Just like guns.
We do have to face the reality that there are, like, because of the history, it's not far-fetched or conspiracy to say some of the things that we're saying in regards to Black people being set up for failure. You could look at a ton of different situations like redlining, which is similar to what they did with the Jews, putting them in the ghettos, except in America.
But look at redlining to education. Your public education is only as good as where you live, right?
Yep. So
they put us all into these neighborhoods that get devalued by crack and cocaine and these drugs
and crime,
and then private investment won't invest. So they don't put grocery stores there.
No, it's literally ghettos. If you watch any like Nazi Germany like movie, they literally put them in an area with walls and limited their resources. So those were at a certain time in life, but now we're looking at 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. They did the same thing, but strategically and smarter. We're not going to give the valuable real estate. We're going to keep the property values low. But
I can even look at real estate, bro, from when the housing crisis hit. I grew up in Prince George's County, one of the most profitable Black counties in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents' property did not recover at the same rate of properties in Montgomery County, which is a predominantly white county, or Leesburg in Virginia, predominantly white county, from the housing crisis in 2008.
Yep.
And all homes in Prince George's County did not recover. Mind you, we are one of the most profitable Black counties. We have $1 million homes. A lot of players that play on the Wizards and the Redskins or teams in the DMV area live in Prince George's County. It's 30 minutes from DC.
Yep.
But even because it's a Black county, the equity in your homes is not the same. Just off that alone.
There's so many strategic ways to keep people oppressed. And when you say it the way that we're speaking, even passionately here, it looks like you're bitching or conspiracy theorying, right? So I think it is important, just like how this whole episode started as we wrap up here, the education piece is big. This podcast is big. I'm sure people listening to this, whether you're Black or white or Middle Eastern descent or Asian descent, right? Whatever you are watching this, you probably were educated or learned something new from Rob and I's experience, Tarca's experiences. And that's what it's about, is just talking about it. Think about how afraid before this Black guy got choked out on camera with a knee live for 9 minutes, watch him die. Before that, it was uncomfortable to talk about race. It was uncomfortable to even like make race jokes on here about me being Black. Like we got to make like soft, like, ooh, like Oreo jokes with Tarca. We can't speak freely about, all right, I'm Black, you're white, we're different, right? Your race used to oppress our race. Like you don't talk about it that comfortably for obvious reasons. But I think now we're seeing the change, and now's the time where we have to talk about it so that people are educated and can get on the right side, because it is a very clear right and wrong side. There's no middle. There's no middle ground. There's no all the people in between. You are very evidently right or wrong in this instance. And I think that hopefully after this, we do see a change. We do see a reform. We do see a unification of America. You know, we swap out presidents, again, not to get, political. I was one of those people, again, benefit of the doubt, giving Trump benefit of the doubt and saying, I think you guys are overreacting. I think he's not the, best person. I think he's an a-hole, but I don't know if he's racist, like that whole thing. Listen, I'm not even going to go down that road, but my point is, I think change is coming, and it takes, in order for Phoenix to emerge, it takes fire. And I think what we're experiencing right now is the fire, metaphorically and physically. So I'm not condoning or instigating rioting and looting, but again, we can't control emotion. We can't tell people how to grieve. We can't definitely tell and oppress people, us, me, my people, how to react to an escalation of oppression that was supposed to be put to rest 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago, right? So anyway, that's my little monologue to end this. I'm happy though, Rob, that you did feel the emotional surge to go deeper, because I get deep. I'm like, all right, forget the cop killings in the last 10 years. Let's talk about the root of this, the socioeconomic issues, the household issues, why we're dead last in income, but the highest in crime of a race all in America, why America has 2% of the world population, but 25% of the prison population of the entire world, right?
Speak on it.
A quarter of the prison population, but only 2% of the actual world population. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it does go deeper. It starts with education. If you guys are listening to this, definitely educate yourself on the oppression of Black people in America. It's not just us bitching or pulling the race card, as they call it. It's a real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid to go certain places and dress too Black and represent my culture, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I act too Black, it doesn't get looked at the same as if a white guy acts too Italian or acts too Irish or represents where they're from. I don't even know where I'm from, right? You know what I'm saying? My ancestry was stripped from me when my ancestors were stripped from their land, right? So it gets super deep. The anger that you guys are seeing, the emotion, the hurt that you guys are seeing, the outcry that you guys are seeing is real and it's deep. And I need you all to respect how deep it is by doing your own research and learning. Make sure you follow us on Hoop Chatter Podcast on Instagram at Hoop Chatter Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe this video on YouTube, and like, share, subscribe to the podcast if you like listening in your car, in your headphones, in the shower, whatever. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts for this full episode and many, many more. Once again, guys, this is the last episode of season 1. We will be back in a few weeks, but I encourage all of you to do all the sharing in the world and catching up on past episodes. All of them aren't as good or as deep as this one, but who knows, season 2, maybe we'll start bringing this energy and start bringing in some outside stuff outside of basketball, more on the podcast and sharing our opinions and let you guys get to know us a little bit more on a deeper level. I love you all. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, I'm Art Morrison III, here with my crew, Rob McPherson, Kevin Tarca with the Hoop Chatter crew. And before I say we'll chat later, guys, it's the last episode. Tarca, I'm going to let you go first about this topic, but just about anything, about us ending the podcast, all that good stuff. I'll give you the floor for a minute so you can say bye to the people.
What do you want? This podcast reaction, or you want the full
Both,
season?
bro. Both. Yeah, give us both.
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to this podcast, you know, I guess if you look back on all the episodes, I'm pretty spot on for trying to give a gem right at the end, and I'm gonna shut the hell up for this one and not give a gem because I think, at least in my opinion, I'm gonna say what I think is I need to listen. And we need to listen. When I say we, I mean white people. We need to listen and understand, you know, how to educate ourselves and how to act properly. And we don't get to make those decisions because, again, we got into the reasons of why. But I guess I will say, you know, I'll transfer that gem into a question. And this is not just a question for the listeners. Like, this is a question for me. Is, you know, what can I do as a white person to not just say, speak, or think these actions, but actually to do these actions, to take action? What can I do that is going to help in some small or big way make change? So when we are, you know, when our children are our age, they're not going through it like everybody's children's did the past 400 years.
Mm.
And that's a question, and there might not be one answer, but if there is, it's kind of transition to like, give me a gem so I can learn.
Beautiful, bro. Beautiful stuff, man. Great question. Guys, all jokes aside, too, I always say this every episode, Hoop Chatter Podcast on Instagram, as well as AboveMAX Basketball on YouTube. Leave a comment. Really answer the question. We love to engage. You never know. We might feature or share the question. But this is an episode where I'm not just saying, hey, let's engage and have a dialogue. This is an episode and a topic that really requires dialogue and discussion in order for us to see change. All right, Rob, you're up, bro. Reaction on this episode. Give us your last little dissertation, as well as episode 30 of the podcast, man. We're going on a little vacation for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm happy to have been a part of this. with you guys, man. Art, you've been my brother, like I said, for about 10 years, going on 11 years now. Tarca, just met you recently, man, but we've grown to be brothers as well. Love both you guys. Hope you guys stay safe. Take care of yourselves during this break. You know, get a little mental relaxation, recharge. Let's get reset to attack season 2. In regards to just this topic and just life in general, to anyone out there listening, you know, it's always love. Love is counted with love, and when love is given, love's reciprocated, right? There's no greater force in this world than love, and it can conquer anything. Love everyone as if they were yourself. Even people that you don't understand, seek to understand them before judging. And for people that you don't understand, give empathy and try to understand them. Ask why. Don't walk through life being uneducated.
Yo, we got deep in the bag for this episode right here, bro. Deep in the inspirational bag.
That was the answer to the question that I needed. I mean, that's great, man.
Man, that's beautiful. We're gonna end on that note. We appreciate you guys listening, and I'm like kind of overwhelmed with like joy that this topic really brought out the best of my partners on this episode, and really, like, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know if you guys believe in God, but like the Holy Ghost, you know, somebody catches the Holy Ghost, like the words are just flowing and they're able to articulate very clearly. I really learned a lot about both you guys' perspectives. So I hope everyone listening did as well. Like Rob said, everyone stay safe. It's still the coronavirus out there. Don't forget about that, with all the distractions. And again, go learn, go answer Tarka's questions, and listen to Rob. All right, I'm Art Morrison III. This is Hoop Chatter Podcast, episode 30, season 1. We'll see you guys, or better yet, we'll chat season 2. Peace.